My presentation is on gymnastics. One of the things that a lot of people don't know about gymnastics is that it came from back in the ancient Greek times where the word was actually derived from gymnos, which meant naked because at the time they performed gymnastics without clothes on. Since then, it's evolved, and obviously the word has gotten longer and the meaning has changed. But that is where it came from. Um, my philosophy for gymnastics is gymnasts are well rounded athletes. They have to focus on strength, power, flexibility, balance. It's much more well rounded than a lot of other sports. They have to take into consideration um, much more dynamic workouts than a lot of other sports do because they have to focus on um, being so physically fit um, all throughout their body versus just one specific part like running. Um, for injuries, some of the most common injuries for gymnastics is wrist and ankle sprains. Those are really common in every event in gymnastics, whether it's the uneven bars or the rings or the balance beam, the floor routine, just because there's so much pressure being put on those joints. And so they happen pretty often for gymnasts. Stress fractures is another really common one because they're slamming around so much. It's really easy for them to overuse their bones and muscles and not give themselves enough time to rest and recover before they get back out there. Herniated discs, ACL and MCL tears, back injuries, and shoulder and knee injuries. All of these are common for pretty much the same reasons. Gymnasts are, for the most part, year-round athletes. They don't get along off season, and so they're constantly overusing every single part of their body for every event that they have to do because they have to do so many dynamic types of movements, and so that's where a lot of these injuries come from. As far as the ACL and MCL tears, jumping is a huge thing, a huge proponent of why athletes tear their ACL and MCL, and so that's pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, gymnasts are constantly jumping, and there is a high risk of landing wrong and tearing things. Here is a training visual. It's probably hard for you to see, but it breaks down a year-long training plan for, this is actually for an acrobatic gymnast, but I evolved my gymnastics training plan kind of off of this, but there are some slight differences. This actually breaks it down into seven macrocycles or microcycles, and we'll go more in depth about that in a second. So mesocycle 1 is the preseason. This is a 7-week preparatory phase with high volume and low intensity. This pretty much is the stage where you're trimming your fat and gaining your muscle. So this is how you really prepare to be in shape for your in-season. This usually takes place in August and September for female gymnasts. In gymnastics, this phase has an increase in stretching, and it is for the introductory of new skills. So they aren't quite planning what the routines are going to be yet for floor or anything like that, but this is where they're starting to learn new skills so that they're prepared when they do have to put those routines together. This phase focuses on endurance. Gymnasts have to be able to carry out a full routine for every single different event that they have to perform, and so they have to have enough endurance to get through each of those because a meet can take hours. It can take all day to get through. So that's what this mesocycle 1 is really focusing on. An example of a workout during this stage is 3 mat pushes with 10 pounds, 2 back-to-back, a 3x8 circuit, and a 40-minute machine. So either the treadmill or some type of cross training, that way they're not overusing certain muscles. For mesocycle 2, we're still in the preseason. This part is a 6-week preparatory phase with moderate volume and moderate intensity. So we're increasing the intensity, but we're lowering, we can either lower or maintain the volume. And this usually takes place in September and October for females. This is a basic stretching phase, and it is to practice skills for the season. So you've learned your introductory skills, and now you're trying to perfect them so that when you put a routine together, it flows nicely. This phase focuses on strength. So there's a lot of lifting involved with this phase of the workout. It helps get strong, it helps you with your balance, it helps you with your flexibility. So this is the part that really focuses on making the athlete well-rounded. An example of a workout in this phase is a 3x7 sprints of 40 yards. 8 seconds is when they have to finish it in, and they get an 8-second rest with 2 minutes in between. A 3x8 circuit and 40 minutes of cardio. So that could be either on a machine or on the roads. Mesocycle 3, still preseason. This is a 7-week preparatory phase with a low volume and high intensity. This usually takes place in October and November for ladies. This is a skill-specific stretching phase that focuses on training skills for specific routines. So at this point, they're usually starting to put together their routines, and they're really focusing on their bigger skills that they're going to perform in those routines. So that way, they're perfect for meet days. This phase focuses on skill-specific strength. So instead of trying to be extremely well-rounded, they start to really zoom in and focus on each specific event and what parts of their body and what skills they really have to be strong for in order to nail for their competition. An example of a workout for this phase is a 20-minute spin program, so that would be on a stationary bike, a 3x8 circuit, and 45-minute cycle. Mesocycle 4, still in preseason. This is a 6-week sport-specific phase. This takes place in November and December for ladies. It focuses completely on specific skill training and training skills specific for routines. This is the first transition period that we're going to go from. So this is the last part of the preseason before we go into the in-season. An example of this is going to be a 3x8 circuit and 45 minutes of insanity. And then you're going to practice your routines. So it's pretty simple. There's not a lot to it, but it is extremely important because it's right before you're in season. Mesocycle 5. We're finally in the in-season. This is a 14-week competition phase that maintains and applies strength to skills. It takes place in January, February, and March, so it's a pretty long in-season for such a dynamic and tough sport. This focuses on maintenance and application of flexibility to skills. So you're not really introducing any new skills. You're just, staying on top of your strength and flexibility and your performances. Athletes now perfect their skills and their routines. And an example of a workout for this stage is Weaver rolls, 35 minutes on the machine, and practice routines. So that's also pretty straightforward. The Mesocycle 6, still in the in-season. This is a 5-week nationals competition phase that also maintains and applies strength to skills. It takes place in March and April, and it's extremely important because this is when we're going through our nationals, regionals, all of the really big competitions that mean the most for each athlete. It also focuses on maintenance and application of flexibility to skills. Athletes now perfect their skills in their routines, and an example of an in-season workout at this stage is a 2x8 circuit and 35 minutes on the machine. The last stage is the mesocycle 7. This is the postseason. This is a 4-week postseason phase with recreational training, not involving resistance training. This takes place in May and June. So this isn't the off season, but this is where we cut back quite a bit on the type of routines and exercises that they're doing because it's the start of their recovery phase. This is the second transition period because it's going from in-season to post-season. This is a moderate stretching phase that focuses on thinking about routines for the next season. So you're still maintaining and cutting back. An example of a workout for this phase is upper body lifting with high rep and low weight, and 6 by 30 second stadium runs with 30 seconds rest. And these are my sources. And we are all done. Thank you.